Top 5 Oldest Civilizations in Human History. Imagine a world without electricity, without the internet, without writing. Now imagine that thousands of years before our era, there were civilizations that had already built temples, created laws, studied the stars, and left behind mysteries that scientists still cannot solve. This is not just dust from the past. These are the roots of everything we know. It was these civilizations that gave rise to human history, left mysterious artifacts and disappeared without a trace. But their traces live on in stone, symbols, and legends. In this video, you will discover the top 5 oldest civilizations of mankind, from the mysterious Sumerian to the sacred Indus Valley. We will tell you not only where they were, but also why they disappeared, and what shocking facts about them are kept secret by official sources. Did technologies really exist that we still don't understand? Was there knowledge that surpassed ours? Watch the video to the end, and you will see that the past is not as distant as it seems. And if you are also looking for the truth in history, are fascinated by ancient cultures and want to learn more, subscribe to the channel, click on the bell, and go with us on a journey into the deepest layers of time. Because the answers are under a layer of forgotten history. 5th place, Mayan civilization, the masters of time, stars, and secrets. Even before Europe wrote on parchment, cities that competed with the sky were born in the depths of Mesoamerica. The Maya are one of the most mysterious and impressive civilizations in human history. Their cities, located in the impenetrable jungles of Guatemala, Belize, and southeastern Mexico, grew out of stone like the creations of the gods. Majestic temples, pyramids, palaces, and astronomical observatories were built without the use of metal tools and the wheel, but with a precision that amazes even modern engineers. Period of existence. The first settlements appeared in 2000 BC, but the real heyday came during the Classical Era, 250 to 900 AD. Region. The territories of modern Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, and Belize. The most famous cities, Tikal, Palenque, Copan, Caracol, each of which was a center of political power, science, and spirituality. But most importantly, the Maya created some of the most accurate calendars in human history. Their famous long count covered cycles that lasted thousands of years. They knew about eclipses, phases of the moon, the movement of Venus. Their priest astronomers calculated the moments of the solstices with an accuracy of 1 day. The Maya also left behind a developed writing system, hieroglyphic, complex but surprisingly poetic. In stone, on ceramics, and in codices, they recorded not only events and rulers, but also prophetic texts, rituals, even poetry. These inscriptions are like portals into the consciousness of the ancient world. And their pyramids? They are not just majestic buildings. These are giant astronomical instruments. On the day of the vernal equinox in Chichen Itza, a shadow revives, a stone snake that slides from the pyramid of Kukulkan. Coincidence? Or proof that the Maya understood the universe more deeply than we do today? But there is also a dark side. Ritual sacrifices, belief in otherworldly forces, blood on altars. For the Maya, this was a way to keep balance in the world. Their civilization disappeared suddenly, cities abandoned, temples overgrown with vines. Why? Climate change? Wars? Rebellions? Or something more? Something they themselves predicted. The Maya are not just history. They are a mystery that still lives among the stones, jungles, and stars. And they rightfully occupy the 5th place on our list of the oldest civilizations of mankind. 4th place, Chinese civilization, Yangshao and Shang dynasty, the cradle of empires, mysticism, and metal. In the distant valley of the Yellow River, where mists shroud the mountain slopes, more than 5,000 years ago, what would later become the world's longest-lasting cultural tradition began. But long before emperors and the Great Wall, there were the Yangshao, a mysterious Neolithic people who lived in symphony with rivers and the earth, creating exquisite ceramics, irrigating the fields, and perhaps even then, understanding that time was not just the movement of the sun, but a force. The Yangshao period, around 3000 BC. Their culture left traces in the form of pottery with geometric ornaments, which has survived to this day like letters from the past. Their art is the first page of a book called China. But the real breakthrough came with the emergence of the Shang dynasty, c. 1600 to 1046 BC, one of the first centralized states in the world, where there was already a clear hierarchy, military organization, specialized crafts, and even astronomy. It was during the Shang that oracle bones first appeared, divination bones on which the oldest Chinese characters were written. These were questions to spirits and ancestors about the weather, war, harvest, fate, and therefore the first documents in Chinese history. Early bronze casting is another masterpiece of the Shang. Not only weapons were made from bronze, but also mystical vessels for sacrifices, decorated with dragons, tigers, griffins. Each thing is not just an object, but a symbol of power, strength, and connection with higher powers. This civilization was obsessed with the cult of ancestors. They believed that the dead did not disappear, but influenced the world of the living. Therefore, they built grandiose tombs for their deceased rulers, offered them sacrifices, and consulted through fortune-telling. It was a culture where death and life intertwined, forming one inextricable flow of power and memory, and also a calendar. They calculated the days favorable for battles, landings, marriages. Everything in their world had its own cyclicity, rhythm, and meaning. And this is the basis of the Chinese worldview, which has survived eras and dynasties. The Yangshao and Shang civilization is not only the forerunner of imperial China. It is a world of magic, metal, and myth, which laid the foundations of the most enduring cultural heritage on the planet. Its traces still pulsate in every hieroglyph, in every ancient temple, in every legend about the dragon. And that is why this civilization ranks fourth on our list of the oldest in the world. Third place, Indus Valley civilization, a vanished empire of geniuses from the future. In the valley of the great Indus River, where the sun of Pakistan and India shines today, there once existed a mysterious civilization that was thousands of years ahead of its time. The Indus Valley civilization, also known as the Harappan, is one of the oldest in the world, but also one of the most mysterious. It flourished from 3300 BC and to this day amazes archaeologists with its level of development, rationality, and silence. The cities of Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro are true masterpieces of ancient urban planning. There were no chaotic labyrinths here, as in many other ancient cultures. The streets are straight, the intersections are clear, the residential quarters are planned like modern neighborhoods. But the main sensation is the centralized sewage system, rainwater drainage systems, public toilets and wells. This was a civilization where hygiene and comfort were the norm, not luxuries, and this was more than 3,000 years before Rome. Every city had a citadel, residential areas, granaries, workshops, and probably temples, although the religion of the Hindus remains a mystery. Archaeologists find figurines of goddesses, symbols reminiscent of Shiva, and amazing seals with mythical animals. But the main mystery is their writing. Hundreds of artifacts, clay tablets, seals, ceramics, still have ideograms and signs that have not been deciphered. The Indus language is silent, and therefore we do not know the names of their gods, legends, kings, laws. But we do know their architecture, their engineering, their love of order and symmetry. Interestingly, the Indus Valley civilization fought almost no wars. No weapons have been found on its territory in such quantities as in Mesopotamia or Egypt. Instead, there are pottery wheels, trading centers, weighing scales, jewelry, and textiles. This was a civilization of trade and intelligence, not conquest. They traded with Mesopotamia, grew cotton, used measures and weights accurate to the gram. But around 1300 BC something happened. The cities were emptied. There are many versions: a change in the course of the Indus, climate change, epidemics, or the invasion of the Aryans. But no one knows for sure why one of the most powerful civilizations on the planet disappeared, leaving behind silence and stone seals with messages that we still cannot read. The Indus civilization is a ghost of an intellectual world that lived according to the laws of order, engineering, and harmony with nature. And that is why it occupies an honorable third place among the oldest civilizations in human history. Second place, ancient Egyptian civilization, a country of eternal life and mysterious grandeur. On the banks of the majestic Nile, under the scorching desert sun, one of the most famous and greatest civilizations in the history of mankind arose, ancient Egypt. This civilization lasted for more than 3,000 years, leaving behind not only pyramids and mummies, but also a deep mark on the culture, religion, and science of the whole world. It all began around 3100 BC when the legendary pharaoh Menes, others call him Narmer, united Upper and Lower Egypt, creating the first centralized state in world history. From that moment on, a grandiose story unfolded north and south along the Nile, including kingdoms, dynasties, gods, and battles for eternal life. The Pyramids of Giza, a symbolic gateway to the afterlife. Huge structures built of millions of blocks, weighing several tons each, still amaze architects and engineers. Especially the Great Pyramid of Giza is one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world that has survived to this day. But these were not just tombs, they were mystical machines of transition, filled with knowledge of the stars, time, and the soul. The cult of the pharaohs was not just political. The pharaoh is a living incarnate deity, a mediator between people and the gods. The belief system of Egypt embraced the idea of Ma'at, order, harmony, and truth. And beyond earthly life, another world, where the heart of the deceased was weighed before the god Osiris, and only the worthy had a chance for eternity. The ancient Egyptians created one of the most complex writing systems, hieroglyphs, which were used to record laws, rituals, chronicles, as well as secret knowledge. They were the first to develop medical papyri, knew about surgery, disease diagnosis, herbal medicine, and body anatomy through mummification. Their doctors were ahead of their time. Architecture is another proof of their genius. The majestic temples of Karnak, Luxor, Abu Simbel, carved into the rocks, with huge statues of gods and pharaohs standing for millennia as if guarding their secrets. Everything was built according to sacred geometry, connected with the movement of the stars, the equinoxes, and the cycles of the Nile. Every year, the Nile River flooded its banks, bringing fertile soil, and this was the basis of agriculture. Thanks to this, even in the harsh conditions of the desert, Egypt became a cradle of fertility, wealth, and prosperity. Names like Hatshepsut, Tutankhamun, Ramses II, Cleopatra have become legends. Egypt has seen both its rise and its decline, and continued to influence civilizations even after it became part of the Roman Empire in 30 BC, after the death of Cleopatra. Ancient Egypt is a story about eternity, where death is not the end, but a new beginning. This is a country where people sought to leave a mark on eternity, and they succeeded. That is why this civilization deserves to take second place on our list of the oldest and greatest cultures in human history. First place, Sumerian civilization, the beginning of civilization that awakened humanity. Tens of thousands of years ago, humanity wandered across savannas and valleys, not yet knowing what civilization meant. And here, at the junction of 2 rivers, the Tigris and Euphrates, among the hot winds of Mesopotamia, a culture appeared that would change the course of history. Sumer is the first civilization known to us, paving the way for the future for all peoples. 4500 BC, around that time the first city-states appeared in fertile southern Iraq. They had not existed before, anywhere in the world. Uruk, Lagash, Eridu, each city was like a separate state with its own ruler, temples, laws, and army. Tall ziggurats rose above the horizon, huge temples dedicated to the gods, reminding us that Sumer is not just a people, but a chosen one who speaks to the heavens. It was the Sumerians who created cuneiform, one of the world's earliest writing systems. At first, to record grain, livestock, taxes, but over time, scribes began to record epics, laws, religious hymns, and even astronomical observations. Without the Sumerians, we might not have a book as a concept. One of the greatest texts of the ancient world, the Epic of Gilgamesh, was created here. It is about the search for eternal life, about friendship, death, and wisdom. The story of Gilgamesh echoes in religions, philosophies, and modern literature to this day. But Sumer is not only poetry. It is mathematics, astronomy, the judicial system. They introduced the sexagesimal system of calculation that we still use today, in hours, minutes, seconds. They divided the sky into constellations, knew about the movement of the planets, and compiled calendars that served as the basis for the later Babylonians and Greeks. They were the first to establish legal codes which described fines, punishments, duties, and rights of citizens. These were the first steps towards a society where law, not force, prevailed. The Sumerians had a complex pantheon of gods, where each city had its patron. Enlil, Inanna, Enki, Utu. People built grandiose ziggurats not only as religious buildings, but as a connection between heaven and earth. Their religion influenced all subsequent beliefs of Mesopotamia, including the Babylonians, Assyrians, and even biblical legends. And also, they were the first to cultivate the land, learn to manage water, irrigate fields, grow wheat and barley. They created urban life, divided professions, organized exchange, invented trade routes, and were the first to build complex social structures. But like everything in history, Sumer disappeared. Around 1900 BC, it gave way to the Amorites, Babylonians, but its traces remained in each of us. In language, in calendars, in knowledge, in the very concept of civilization. That is why the Sumerian civilization is not just the first on the list. It is the first in everything, the first spark from which the flame of history was lit. It is the foundation on which humanity built its future. And that is why it takes the honorable first place in our ranking of the oldest civilizations in the world. Each civilization is a separate chapter in the great book of humanity. They were born on the banks of rivers, in valleys and deserts, among jungles and mountains, leaving behind mysteries, myths, incredible achievements, and a legacy that we feel even now. They created language, writing, architecture, beliefs, science, everything without which it is impossible to imagine the modern world. And although most of them have long disappeared, their spirit lives on in us. Looking at the pyramids of Egypt, at the ruins of Uruk, or at the starry sky where the Mayans counted time, we understand. We are the descendants of the great. And that is why it is so important to know where we came from. If you are interested, be sure to subscribe to the channel, because there are even more fascinating stories, myths, and facts ahead that will reveal to you the incredible world of the past. Click on the bell so you don't miss new videos. And of course, share this issue with your friends, because learning history together is even more interesting. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.